A girl was at home playing Left 4 Dead 2 when her teammates suddenly mentioned a zombie virus outbreak outside. She thought it was just a prank, but as soon as she took off her headphones, she heard the blaring sound of sirens. Pulling back the curtains, she saw a military helicopter flying by. It was as if the game had come to life. Kat immediately burst into her sister Jo's room, interrupting her in the middle of something. Jo was annoyed, clearly not believing in any apocalypse and scolding her sister for the disruption. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to them, Jo's boyfriend, who was lying on the bed, had already turned into a zombie. Before they could comprehend what was happening, the zombie boyfriend lunged at Jo, grabbing her by the throat. Both sisters screamed in terror. Kat quickly reacted, jumping onto the bed and using the blanket to cover the zombie's view. She then dashed out of the room, slamming the door shut behind her. At this moment, Kat seemed unusually excited, thrilled by the chance to fight zombies in real life. However, Jo was utterly panicked. Kat reassured her not to worry, claiming that zombies couldn't open doors. But in the next second, the zombie burst through the door. Both sisters screamed and bolted downstairs. Just as they reached the doorway, Kat abruptly stopped, convinced that zombies couldn't descend stairs. However, they watched in horror as the zombie tumbled down the stairs, breaking its neck in the process. But to their shock, the zombie quickly got back on its feet, giving its neck a slight twist to set it back in place, ready to pursue them once again. The terrifying scene left the two sisters no choice but to keep running. However, as soon as they stepped outside, they realized the streets were even more dangerous. Zombies were everywhere, and the entire city had fallen. Luckily, these zombies moved slowly, more like those in The Walking Dead, rather than the fast ones in World War Z. As a seasoned fan of zombie games and movies, Kat quickly came to a conclusion: most zombies couldn't swim. So, she figured that if they could find a boat and escape through the canal out of Birmingham, they could avoid the zombies entirely. Kat couldn't resist a bit of humor, remarking that if Rick from The Walking Dead had half her wisdom, the show wouldn't have so many seasons. Luckily, Jo's ex-boyfriend had a boat, so the sisters headed to the dock and found his large red boat. When they entered the cabin, they discovered that Jo's ex-boyfriend's current girlfriend was there but had already turned into a zombie. As the zombie lurched toward them, the sisters quickly ran to the stern, only to find themselves trapped with no way out. With no other option, they prepared to fight the zombie. Although Kat was a pro at slaying zombies in video games, facing a real one left her hesitant. After struggling to overcome her fear, she finally struck, but missed the zombie's vital spot. Despite her initial fear, she found the sensation of stabbing the zombie oddly satisfying. She tried using a wooden stick to bash its head but couldn't land a critical hit. Jo stood by, nervously urging her on. Seeing her sister's hesitation, Kat had a sudden idea and said, "It told your ex-boyfriend about the time you farted in class." Fueled by embarrassment and anger, Jo's every strike became a critical hit. She finally grabbed a fruit knife and stabbed the zombie straight in the heart, killing it instantly. It seemed that the heart was their weak spot. However, looking at the corpse on the ground, Jo started to worry. She thought she had killed someone and was scared the police would arrest her. Determined to turn herself in, Jo ignored Kat's insistence that it was just a zombie and that the police had bigger issues. When she arrived at the police station, she found it overrun with zombies. The infected officers began closing in on Jo from all directions. Panicked, Jo dashed into a dead-end alley and tried to open a door to no avail. She had no choice but to hide in a nearby police car. Turning around, she discovered a handcuffed zombie prisoner in the back seat. Fortunately, the cuffs kept the zombie from attacking her. Trapped and with the zombie constantly snarling at her, Jo was at a loss for what to do. Suddenly, car alarms blared outside, drawing the zombies away. The car door opened, and it was Kat coming to the rescue. Jo was overjoyed and grateful for her sister's timely intervention. Before they left, Jo couldn't resist giving the annoying zombie a piece of her mind. After a few steps, they both realized that in a world overrun by zombies, they needed to dress the part. They headed to a nearby clothing store and picked out their favorite leather jackets. Now they had outfits that matched the apocalyptic setting perfectly. But just as they were about to board the boat, Jo's zombie ex-boyfriend came running after them. Without hesitation, Jo threw a pot of flowers at him and quickly started up the big red boat. However, the boat's speed was surprisingly slow, almost matching the zombies. Still, it was safer on the water. Little did they know, shortly after they left, Jo's ex-boyfriend arrived at the dock, looking utterly confused. Once on the boat, they tossed the zombie's body into the river, unaware that two survivors had sneaked into the cabin. Seeing this, Sunny and Amar thought Joe and Kat were ruthless killers and charged at them with wooden sticks. After a brief scuffle and some frantic explanations, Sunny and Amar realized the body was a zombie, not a murder victim. With the misunderstanding cleared up, the group decided to team up. But just then, they spotted a water gate blocking their path. They had no choice but to disembark and try to push it open. Despite using all their strength, the gate wouldn't budge. As the zombie horde drew closer, they rushed back to the boat, deciding to ram the gate with the boat itself. Luckily, their plan worked, and they managed to break through, leaving the zombies behind once again. The group decided to have a cup of coffee to calm their nerves, but Joe, staring at a photo on her mug, was reminded of her ex-boyfriend. She wanted to call him, but in the rush of events, they hadn't brought their phones. Determined to retrieve her phone, Joe decided to head home, while Kat planned to pick up the game guild leader, boasting about how brilliant the guild leader was in coming up with all these survival strategies. With their meeting point set, they decided to split up. Amar tagged along with Joe to find a car. They soon hit the streets, where Amar effortlessly opened a car door and, like a scene from a movie, attempted to hotwire it with 2 wires. Instead of starting the car, they triggered the car alarm, attracting nearby zombies. Thankfully, both were skilled at running for their lives and managed to return home safely. After retrieving the phone, Joe used its locator to find her ex-boyfriend's location. She impulsively decided to leave her sister behind, taking the neighbor's car to find him. While driving and dialing his number, she didn't notice a zombie suddenly appearing on the road and crashed into it, causing the car to come to a halt. Joe peeked out and saw that a zombie was blocking the tire. She tried reversing but ended up getting sprayed with something akin to watermelon juice. Her germophobia kicked in, leaving her stunned. With zombies surrounding the car and her phone dead, she couldn't contact her ex-boyfriend. Overwhelmed, she broke down in tears. Amar comforted her, helping her to calm down. An idea struck her. They opened the trunk and, while the zombies were trying to get in from the back, managed to escape. Meanwhile, Kat and Sunny had picked up the game guild leader. However, her appearance was different from what they had imagined. Despite this, Kat was full of admiration, praising her not only for her gaming skills but also for her real-life prowess with a crossbow, describing her abilities as terrifyingly impressive. However, Kat was too engrossed in chatting to notice that the captain had actually been bitten by a zombie. Meanwhile, as they waited for Joe, a crowd of zombies had gathered at the shore. The captain, seeing this, confidently showed off his archery skills. Kat watched eagerly, but the captain's shot just grazed the zombies, missing them despite the dense crowd. The captain quickly blamed the crossbow, trying to save face. Sunny immediately thought the captain was all talk. Seeing the awkward situation, the captain made an excuse about conserving ammunition and hurried into the cabin. After waiting for a long time with no sign of Joe, they decided to stop waiting. Just then, Sunny noticed a bite mark on the captain's arm. The captain claimed that she had just killed hundreds of zombies and got bitten in the process. She insisted that, based on the zombie movies she had seen, the virus was mostly airborne and a bite didn't necessarily mean infection. Sunny pretended to agree, but secretly grew suspicious of the captain's identity. He rushed into the cabin to inform Kat, who was skeptical, believing the captain was too skilled to be bitten by a zombie. Sunny, however, argued that he had encountered many online scammers like this before. To confirm his suspicions, he rummaged through the captain's backpack. Sure enough, the ID inside revealed that the captain wasn't who she claimed to be. Kat couldn't believe her eyes as she took the ID, then angrily confronted the captain, demanding to know who she really was. Faced with undeniable evidence, the woman confessed the truth. She wasn't the real captain. The real captain had turned into a zombie, and she had found the backpack along the way. No sooner had she finished speaking than she transformed into a zombie and lunged at them. Sunny accidentally fell into the river, leaving Kat as the target of the zombie's attack. Kat led the zombie in a loop before decisively climbing onto the ship's roof, but the zombie followed her up. Fortunately, the crossbow was up there. She grabbed it and fired at the zombie, only to hit its thigh. The zombie, enraged, hobbled menacingly towards Kat. In a critical moment, Kat fired another arrow, this time hitting the zombie squarely in the heart. After pulling Sunny back onto the boat, Joe and Amar arrived. With the horde of zombies closing in, they quickly started the big red boat and left the area. As they passed by a hotel, Amar suddenly remembered his friends who were staying there before the virus outbreak, thinking they might still be inside. After some discussion, Kat decided to take Amar and Sunny to check out the hotel, while Joe stayed behind to look after the big red boat. Before leaving, Kat gave specific instructions to Joe. If they didn't return within 2 hours, wait for 2.5 hours. The three of them entered the hotel and initially considered taking the elevator, but fearing a zombie might suddenly emerge, they opted for the stairs instead. After reaching the designated floor, Amar began searching for his friend's room. Suddenly, a zombie appeared in the hallway, and worse, more zombies were approaching from the other end. Just when it seemed they were doomed, a door beside them swung open, revealing a man who looked strikingly like Trump. It was Amar's friend. The three quickly took refuge inside. Overwhelmed with relief at seeing his friend alive, Amar embraced him. However, the zombies outside showed no sign of leaving, trapping them inside the room. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the others, Jo, with her face covered in blood, decided to abandon her post and head to the hotel for a hot shower. She quickly found a random room, enjoyed a bath, and then relaxed on the bed, relishing the rare comfort in such dire times. However, the zombies below were less accommodating, forcing Jo to return and devise a clever plan to divert them. Back in the room, Amar and the others brainstormed an escape plan, deciding to break through the floor below. But then Amar's friend, who looked like Trump, mentioned another friend they had pranked and left tied up on the rooftop. Kat was exasperated, but adjusted their strategy to break through the ceiling instead. After considerable effort, they managed to create a hole in the ceiling. They initially planned to take the elevator to the rooftop, but as expected, it was occupied by a zombie. Kat, ever resourceful, used an alarm clock, tossing it into the elevator to distract the zombie. Once the zombie was inside, she quickly pressed the button for the first floor, successfully sending the zombie down. Jo, who had just reached the ground floor, nearly collided with the elevator zombie. Seeing the horde closing in, she quickly bolted. Meanwhile, Kat and her group arrived on the rooftop and spotted their friend tied up. Fortunately, he was unharmed, and Amar's Trump-like friend quickly climbed up to untie him. Just then, a zombie dancer burst through the door, but she had a specific target, Amar. It turned out she was after him because he hadn't tipped her the previous night. As Amar struggled, the others rushed to help, managing to throw the zombie off the building. Jo finally managed to divert the horde and made her way back to the boat, only to be splattered by the falling zombie. Meanwhile, the group on the rooftop found themselves surrounded by zombies once again. In a panic, Kat yelled for Jo to move the boat, as they planned to jump into the river below. Jo quickly started the engine, but the boat moved too slowly. At this moment, Amar spotted a vertical shaft with a ladder. While Jo had only moved the boat about 2.5 meters, the group had already climbed down the shaft to the lower level. However, the Trump lookalike and another friend decided against boarding the boat, believing that driving was a smarter choice. They thought staying on the boat in a zombie apocalypse was a foolish move. Left with no other option, the remaining four restarted the big red boat, setting off once more on their quest for survival.